shocking. Alex Eala was 2 games into what looked like another statement victory over one of the best players in the world, and then everything changed. Under the lights in Cincinnati, with the match stretching beyond midnight and Filipino flags still visible around the Linder Family Tennis Center, Eala had already taken the opening set, recovered from one momentum swing after another, and surged to a 2-0 lead in the deciding set against 9th seed Amanda Anisimova. For a few minutes, the pattern looked familiar. Eala had spent the season proving that rankings did not intimidate her. She had beaten 7 top 10 players during her breakthrough campaign and entered this night carrying a 5-match winning streak against top 10 opponents. Another major scalp appeared within reach. Instead, Anisimova found another level. The American ripped control away from Eala, reeled off game after game, and transformed what had looked like another historic upset into one of the most painful defeats of Eala's season. After 2 hours and 28 minutes of relentless tennis, Anisimova survived 4-6, 6-4, 6-2, ending Eala's run against the world's elite and denying the Filipina what would have been her 10th career victory over a top 10 opponent. The numbers tell one story. The way it happened tells another. This was not a routine third-round loss. This was a match containing a 20-minute game, 13 deuces, repeated breakpoint escapes, a dramatic first-set comeback, a 2-0 lead in the decider, and finally a 6-game finishing surge that left Eala and her supporters wondering how control disappeared so quickly. Yet the most revealing part came after the final ball. Anisimova did not talk about Eala like somebody she had comfortably dismissed. She talked about surviving a fighter, needing support to stay alive in the contest, rediscovering her own competitive edge, and understanding exactly why Eala has become so loved. That reaction may matter almost as much as the score, because Eala left Cincinnati without another upset, but with something increasingly difficult to ignore: the respect of players who know exactly how dangerous she has become. Eala arrived in Cincinnati already riding a wave of momentum. Seeded 17th in a tournament, carrying roughly $7.4 million in prize money, she had just produced a dominant win over Elena Gabriela Rus, a result that pushed her to a career-high ranking of world number 18. This was no longer the story of an unknown player occasionally catching a favorite by surprise. Eala had built a body of results against elite opposition. She had defeated Iga Swiatek twice, beaten Elena Svitolina twice, and collected major victories over Coco Gauff, Elena Rybakina, and Jessica Pegula. Most importantly, she had learned how to play these matches without behaving as if she were supposed to lose them. That mentality was obvious from the opening stages against Anisimova. The American came in with enormous credentials of her own. At 24 years old, she was a former world number 3, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist who had reached the finals of Wimbledon and the US Open in 2025, and a player with 2 WTA 1000 titles on her resume. She possessed the heavier pedigree, the higher seed, and the explosive ball striking capable of ending rallies suddenly. But Eala had the crowd, confidence, and recent history. From the beginning, the atmosphere reflected that tension. Both players held through the first 4 games, but even those early holds hinted at how physically and mentally demanding the night was going to become. Eala created a break opportunity in the 4th game before Anisimova escaped. Then came the 5th game, the kind of game that can define an entire match before anyone realizes it. It lasted approximately 20 minutes. There were 13 deuces. Anisimova generated 8 breakpoint opportunities. 8 separate chances to punch through Eala's serve and seize control. Eala refused to surrender it. Point after point, she survived. Pressure mounted, the game refused to end, and every escape made the next point feel heavier. Eventually, Eala held for 3-2. It was only 1 game on the scoreboard, but emotionally, it felt enormous. She had absorbed everything Anisimova could throw at her and remained standing. Eala immediately tried to turn survival into attack. She earned 2 breakpoints in the 6th game, putting Anisimova under the same type of pressure she had just endured. This time, the American resisted and held for 3-3. Then Anisimova finally landed the breakthrough she had been chasing. In the 7th game, she broke Eala at love and moved ahead 4-3. After the marathon 5th game and the missed chances in the 6th, that break could easily have cracked Eala's resistance. It did the opposite. Elena responded with the kind of sequence that has made her rise so compelling. She broke straight back in the 8th game, wiping away Anisimova's advantage before it could settle. Then she held serve to move in front again. Suddenly the pressure returned to Anisimova, serving in the 10th game just to remain in the set. Eala attacked that moment instead of waiting for a tiebreak or another opportunity later. She broke again and took the opening set 6-4 after 67 minutes. The Filipino supporters exploded. Flags moved through the stands. After everything packed into that first set, Eala had not merely survived Anisimova's pressure. She had finished stronger, and given what she had already accomplished against top 10 opposition, it was impossible not to think the same thing. She might actually do this again. But elite tennis rarely allows momentum to remain comfortable for long. Anisimova had spent much of the opening set frustrated, unable to convert 8 break chances in one game, and then watching a 4-3 advantage disappear in a 3-game Eala surge. The second set became her response. For the first 6 games, neither player gave the other a decisive opening. Serve followed serve, and the set moved to 3-1. That pattern favored the player who could produce one sudden burst, and this time Anisimova found it. She broke Eala in the 7th game to lead 4-3. Unlike the opening set, where Eala immediately answered after being broken, Anisimova protected the advantage. She consolidated in the 8th game and moved to 5-3, putting herself one game from forcing a decider. There was no spectacular collapse from Eala in that set, no string of disasters, and no extended sequence of errors needed to explain the result. One break was enough. Anisimova held on to it, closed the second set 6-4 and reset the entire night. After nearly 2 hours of fighting, everything had been reduced to one final set. This was where Eala's recent history became so important. She had won her previous 5 matches against top 10 players. She had repeatedly shown that when elite opponents gave her an opening, she could step through it, and almost immediately, she created another. Eala held serve to begin the 3rd set and then broke Anisimova to move ahead 2-0. Think about what that meant in that moment. She had already taken the first set. She had endured the second set response. Now at 2-0 in the decider, she had regained the initiative. She was 4 games from the match, 4 games from another top 10 victory, 4 games from extending one of the most remarkable runs of her season. The crowd had every reason to believe the momentum had swung back one final time. Instead, Anisimova produced the sequence that decided everything. From 0-2 down, the American began taking time away from Eala. The pressure changed direction almost instantly. Anisimova recovered the break, then kept coming. 1 game became 2, 2 became 3. The most painful moment arrived in the 5th game of the set. Eala was in position to stop the slide. She moved ahead 40-15 and appeared ready to level the momentum before Anisimova could completely take over. 2 points separated Eala from a crucial hold. She did not win either of them. Then she did not win the next 2. 4 consecutive points disappeared. Anisimova escaped the danger and moved ahead 3-2. That game became the psychological hinge of the decider. At 40-15, Eala still had the chance to halt Anisimova's surge. Seconds later, the American had another break and a lead. From there, the match accelerated away from Eala. Anisimova won 5 straight games after falling behind 2-0, broke Eala 3 times during the decisive run, and ultimately swept the final 6 games of the contest. The same player who had looked vulnerable at the beginning of the set suddenly appeared untouchable. Eala, who had spent most of the night answering every challenge, could no longer find the response. Anisimova even shut her out in the final game, finishing the comeback 6-2 and advancing to the 4th round. The transformation was brutal. Eala went from 2-0 ahead in the deciding set to not winning another game. A night that had begun with the possibility of another historic result ended with Anisimova taking complete command exactly when the pressure became greatest. That is why the final score of 4-6, 6-4, 6-2 does not fully capture what Filipino supporters had just watched. Eala was not overwhelmed from the beginning. She was not comprehensively outclassed. She had controlled major portions of the contest and put herself in a winning position against one of the most accomplished players in the draw. That reality made the defeat hurt more, not less. The opportunity had been real. Her 10th career top 10 victory had been close enough to imagine. Her 5-match streak against top 10 opponents had been close enough to extend. Then Anisimova took it away. What happened afterward, however, changed the emotional tone of the night. Anisimova's post-match comments sounded less like celebration after a straightforward victory and more like relief after escaping a genuine threat. She called Eala a great player and a fighter and explained that she had expected an extremely difficult match. Those words mattered because they matched what everyone had just seen. Eala made Anisimova work for virtually everything. The American also acknowledged the unusual atmosphere around the court. She noted that Eala had enormous support and said she understood why Eala was so loved. At the same time, Anisimova thanked the spectators who were cheering for her, admitting she had needed that encouragement during the battle. She even joked that the match was being played beyond her normal bedtime, a light moment after more than 2 hours of draining tennis past midnight. Behind that joke was a much more serious confession. Anisimova said she was proud that she had found a way to push herself through the middle of the match, rediscover her tennis, and begin fighting harder. She described the contest as extremely difficult and gave Eala credit for producing high-level tennis. That was not empty politeness. During the match, Anisimova had visibly wrestled with her own frustration. At one stage, an exchange with her coaching box centered on whether she had shown enough fighting spirit in the first set. Anisimova acknowledged afterward that she had felt she lacked it early. That detail reveals just how uncomfortable Eala had made one of the game's top players. Anisimova was not simply trying to solve forehand serves and court positioning. She was trying to solve the emotional challenge of facing somebody who kept refusing to disappear. Every time Anisimova appeared ready to take control in the opening set, Eala resisted. 8 breakpoints in one marathon game were not enough. A 4-3 lead was not enough. Even losing the second set did not push Eala away, because she immediately opened the decider 2-0. Anisimova eventually solved the puzzle, but she had to raise her own competitive intensity to do it. That distinction is significant. There are losses that expose the distance between an emerging player and the elite. This did not feel like one of them. If anything, Cincinnati demonstrated how small that distance has become for Eala. She forced a 2-time Grand Slam finalist to adjust emotionally and tactically, dragged the match beyond midnight, won the first set, and created a real opening in the third. The collapse from 2-0 will be the part Eala and her team examine most closely, because elite players punish hesitation with astonishing speed. The margin between controlling a deciding set and losing 6 consecutive games can be a handful of points. The 40-15 game at 2-2 illustrated that perfectly. Win one of those next 2 points and Eala holds, lose 4 straight, and Anisimova suddenly has the scoreboard, the momentum, and the emotional advantage. Those are precisely the experiences that become valuable if a player responds correctly. And Eala's broader season suggests she has learned how to respond. The defeat ended a streak, but it did not erase the results that created that streak. She had already accumulated 7 top 10 victories during the season. She had already broken into the world's top 20 at number 18. She had already won her first WTA Tour title. She had already reached the 4th round at Wimbledon. Her North American hardcourt swing had further reinforced the idea that she could compete deep into major tournaments, highlighted by a historic Washington title run in which she defeated world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the final. She followed that by reaching the round of 16 in Toronto before making the 3rd round in Cincinnati and pushing Anisimova across 3 sets. Put those results together and a pattern emerges. Eala's breakthrough is no longer built around one surprising afternoon. She has started producing meaningful performances across different events against different levels of opposition, and opponents are preparing for her accordingly. That may be one of the biggest changes of all. Earlier in a breakthrough season, an emerging player can benefit from uncertainty. Established stars do not fully know what is coming. Scouting information is limited. The emotional pressure is mostly carried by the favorite. Eala is moving beyond that phase. Players know who she is now. They know she has beaten major champions. They know she has taken down top 10 opponents repeatedly. They know the stands may fill with Filipino supporters wherever she plays. And they know allowing her to gain confidence can become dangerous. Anisimova entered the match knowing she would be dealing with a fighter and walked away repeating that assessment. That is respect earned through results. It also creates a new challenge for Eala. Every opponent will arrive more prepared, fewer players will underestimate her. Every weakness will be studied. The standard becomes higher because the surprise factor disappears. Cincinnati showed both sides of that transition. Eala demonstrated that her best tennis can still put an elite opponent under enormous pressure, but Anisimova demonstrated how quickly elite experience can punish a brief loss of control. The next stage of Eala's development is not proving she can create winning positions against top players. She has already done that repeatedly. It is learning how to close more of those positions when the opponent produces one final surge. And there is no bigger place to test that development than what comes next. Attention now turns toward New York and the US Open at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. Eala is expected to enter the women's singles draw as a seed for the first time in her career, another measure of how dramatically her position has changed. A year earlier, she had already made history by becoming the first Filipino in the Open era to win a Grand Slam singles match at Flushing Meadows. Now she returns not simply hoping to make history by appearing on the stage, but carrying the ranking and resume of somebody capable of beating seeded opponents herself. Before the main singles competition, her schedule also contains more high-profile opportunities. She is slated to participate in the US Open Mixed Doubles Championship exhibition alongside world number 4 Felix Auger-Aliassime on August 25 and 26, and she is scheduled to face world number 14 Iva Jovic in the Stars of the Open exhibition on August 27 at Arthur Ashe Stadium. A packed schedule creates questions about energy and recovery, especially after the physical demands of Washington, Toronto, and Cincinnati. But it also places Eala exactly where breakthrough players want to be, in major matches, on major courts, surrounded by elite competition. The Cincinnati loss therefore becomes a test of interpretation. It can be viewed as the night a 5-match top 10 winning streak finally ended, the night a 2-0 deciding set lead disappeared, the night 6 consecutive games turned celebration into heartbreak. All of that is true, but another truth exists beside it. Eala pushed one of the world's most accomplished players into a 2-hour and 28-minute battle, took the opening set, forced Anisimova to confront her own competitive intensity, and left the American publicly praising her toughness afterward. Defeat hurts precisely because Eala has reached the level where these matches now feel winnable. That is progress with a painful price attached. A year ago, simply sharing these stages represented history. Now losing after leading a player like Anisimova feels like an opportunity wasted. Expectations have changed because Eala changed them. That may be the clearest evidence of how far she has traveled. Cincinnati did not provide another fairy tale ending. There was no 6th consecutive top 10 victory, no 10th career top 10 win, and no late-night celebration for the Filipino supporters who stayed with her through every exhausting game. Instead, there was silence, disappointment, and a lesson delivered by an opponent experienced enough to seize the smallest opening. Yet Anisimova's reaction offered the most important reminder. Eala is no longer approaching the elite from a distance. She is forcing them to fight. She is making finalists, champions, and former top 3 players adjust to her. She is building a reputation strong enough that opponents openly acknowledge the challenge before and after playing her. The next question is whether this painful defeat becomes fuel for something larger in New York. Can Eala take the frustration of losing 6 straight games and turn it into greater composure when another deciding set reaches its breaking point? Can she continue carrying the energy of Filipino supporters without allowing the growing expectations to become a burden? And when the U.S. Open puts her against another dangerous opponent under even brighter lights, will Cincinnati be remembered as the night her streak ended, or the night she learned the lesson that helped start the next one? That answer is still coming. For Alex Eala, the heartbreak was real, but so was the message hidden inside it. She belongs in these battles now. The challenge is finishing them. If you believe Eala can turn this Cincinnati setback into a major U.S. Open run, share your prediction in the comments and subscribe for more coverage as the next chapter of her breakthrough season unfolds.